Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point. And we are here today to talk about the juror questionnaire in the Eastern District of New York versus Robert Sylvester Kelly. And so I'm wondering how many people who have been following this case would be objective jurors on this case, or would you automatically be disqualified because you believe he's either already believed that he's innocent or already believed that he's guilty? And so this questionnaire has a whole bunch of questions, and this may not be, or it will not be, the final questionnaire because there's already been some bickering back and forth between the defense and the prosecutors on several of the questions. Not major differences, but just instances where the defense wants to, include like a small clause, and the basically everything that the defense wants to add, omit, or change, the prosecution is objecting to it. And so I was holding off on this. I actually downloaded this back on April 14, and I was waiting to see if the judge was going to come back with, any rulings or anything. And she may come back because she just did the ruling on the motion to dismiss the RICO charges and the charges brought on by Faith Rogers, who is Jane Doe number 6. And so that was filed like the end of February, beginning of March, and she's just now responding to that. So I'm sure that her response to this juror questionnaire will probably be coming any day now. And I believe they were going to send this question, excuse me. I believe they were going to send the questionnaire out to 500 people, or the initial mailing was going to be to 500 potential jurors. And it was supposed to go out in May, this month actually, but then they delayed the case. The case was supposed to start in July. It was delayed until now. It's looking like October. And so I think that the questionnaires are going to go out in September at this point. And then they're going to start questioning or bringing in people to seat the jury, probably the end of September, beginning of October. That process can take about 2 weeks in normal circumstances. I think for a case of this magnitude, it should be about 2 weeks to actually sit a jury. And then after that, the trial will start. And so unless there's any further delays, we can expect to see mid-October that this case will start. But at the rate that they're going, it probably won't start. And that could be why the judge is in no hurry to resolve these issues. So, like I said, there's a lot of questions on here. We're just going to go through them. And then I said I was going to I'm going to go through the questions, and then I'll come back and talk about the ones that the prosecutors are objecting to making changes to. And so, bear with me here. So it starts off where they're giving the jurors the instructions on what they should do. It says this page is the questionnaire cover sheet. Please tear off this page and take it with you. It says, after you are excused today, please call the following number. And then they have that X'd out after a certain time. Upon calling, you will receive instructions about the date on which you are to report back to court. It is extremely important that you know the juror number written on the top of this form when you make your call. Thank you. So Guys, let me know in the comments how many of you have actually been called to jury duty before. I myself have been called to jury duty several times. And the one time that I was selected to sit on a jury, I think it was like after 3 days of waiting, the guy actually pleaded guilty. And I can't remember exactly what he did, but it was something stupid that he did in a park. I think he had been issued a no trespass in a park. He might have been like a street performer or something. He was issued a no trespass, and then he came back to the park after the no trespass, and so he was arrested. And so his case was, he said he wanted to fight the charges. But then after we waited about 3 days, for the case to start, we were getting ready to go in. They told us to go back to the juror's room and sit down. And then they came back and said that he had pled guilty to the charge, and we were free to go. I think twice I've been called where I don't even think I even found out what the case was about. It was like we showed up, they got up and said, jurors numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you're free to go. And then there was another time I didn't want to be on the case, and I told them, I have a daughter with autism. I can't find anybody to watch her. It'll be a huge inconvenience to have to be driving all the way out here every day and trying to figure that out. And so I didn't even go in that day. I just responded to the, when they send you the form or the card saying that you have to report to jury duty, they give you the option to call this number if there's a reason why you can't serve on the jury. And I know here, when we go into jury duty, it's not for a specific case. They just bring a bunch of people in. You answer these questions. I mean, I think it's like 100 people sitting in the room, and then they'll come up and they'll call like jurors, and they'll give their numbers, and then they'll take them away. And so basically there's multiple cases that they're trying to sit a jury for, and then they just pick you, randomly pick people, and then you go in and you fill out the questionnaire for that particular case, and then they decide. And then on the federal level, I can't remember if it was, I believe it was for a grand jury, to sit on a grand jury. They sent this questionnaire, and you had to answer all these questions. And I believe it was for a grand jury, because you had to be available for like 6 months or something like that, and that they could call you at any time to come and hear these cases. And I never did hear back from that. So I think my views are a little too stern for them. Like they know, oh, we even pull nothing over on her. So let's just let her go on about her business. So let me know in the comments if you've ever been called for jury duty, if you have ever sat on a jury, and, what was that experience like? Was it a misdemeanor? Was it a felony? Have you ever sat on like a like a serious case, like, murder, on a murder trial or anything? I don't think I could sit on a murder case, especially a first-degree murder case, because I don't believe in the death penalty, and Florida is a death penalty state, so I don't think I would ever sit on a jury for that. So anyway, it goes on, and, they give their name, home address, home phone, job title and department, business address, cellular telephone, and then they have to sign saying, I hereby certify that the foregoing information and all of the answers in the questionnaire are true, correct, and complete to the best of my knowledge. And then the next page, it says, United States versus Robert Sylvester Kelly, confidential juror questionnaire instructions. Is confidential, but y'all had it on the website. So it says, to the prospective juror, welcome to the courthouse, and thank you for participating in jury service. This questionnaire is an important part of the jury selection process. You are sworn to give complete and truthful answers under penalties of perjury to the questions that follow. All of the information you provide under will be kept confidential and will be seen only by the judge, the clerk's office, and the members of the prosecution and defense team. And so it says citizens in our community hold a wide variety of different views and have had different life experiences that inform their feelings and views on different topics. We are genuinely interested in learning your views and feelings on a variety of issues and questions. There are no right or wrong answers to these questions. Just be candid and truthful. Please answer each question by placing a check next to the correct response and by providing the information requested. Take your time and answer each question as fully as possible. And then they go on and say, don't leave blank answers, telling them what type of ink to write in, and to please use the space provided for written answers. And then it says on the remaining pages, the questionnaire, please do not provide any specific names or addresses or any information that may identify you or members of your family. It is common practice followed in many cases in federal court, especially where there may be media attention to the case, to keep the names and identities of the jurors in confidence. This is in no way unusual. Then it goes on to say the court directs that you shall not discuss the questionnaire or your answers with friends, family, co-workers, court personnel, or anyone else. It is important that the answers you provide are yours and yours alone. And let me interject this, for the goody two shoes that are like, well, why are you reading this questionnaire? You shouldn't be reading this questionnaire. So when they're telling them to keep it in confidence, they're saying when you answer these questions, answer them in private. Don't let outside influences, interfere with how you're answering the questions. Don't ask other people how you should answer these questions. The questions themselves, I don't think is confidential. So it says, from this point forward, the court further directs you not to read, watch, or listen to any news about the case, including all media sources such as TV, radio, newspaper, online sites, blogs, social media, YouTube, Google searches, etc. You are not to discuss the case with anyone, including your family. You are directed not to research this case or the people involved. Do not research any other facts presented in this questionnaire, any prior court proceedings, the victims, the defendant, the lawyers, and or the judge through any resource, including the internet, media publications, or any other source of information. Now, guys, tell me, because I know I have done it when I have been called, like on that case with the guy with the trespass. I did try to find out who he was, but anyway. He pled guilty, so it don't matter. But I just think it's human nature that if you get called into court to sit on the United States versus Robert Sylvester Kelly, I think that it would just be human nature to go home and start researching to see what you can find out. You're not going to tell me that people that sit on juries don't go out and research that information, especially on a high profile case. I just don't see people not doing it. And then it says jury service is one of the most important duties a citizen can be called on to perform. You will be fulfilling your civic duty by responding completely and honestly during jury selection. Your participation and cooperation in this process is greatly appreciated. The Honorable Ann M. Donnelly, United States District Court Judge. Okay, so then they go on and they talk about the jury questionnaire, and they state that, it's designed to expedite the jury selection process, and tell them once again that their answers must be true. Then it says the defendant, Robert Sylvester Kelly, is charged with racketeering in violation of Title 18, United States Code Section 1962C and 1963 for his alleged role as the leader of an enterprise. Then they have the enterprise, and is alleged to have engaged in racketeering acts, including bribery, sexual exploitation, kidnapping, transportation of minors and other individuals for the purpose of engaging in illegal activity, illegal coercion, and enticement of individuals, and forced labor. And then you guys know I leave certain words out that are printed here. Mr. Kelly is also charged with violations of the Mann Act, including the transportation of individuals, including certain persons, for the purpose of engaging in certain activity, and illegal coercion and enticement of individuals, including certain people, in violation of Title 18 United States Code sections 2421A, 2422A and B, and 2423A. And if you have been following my channel long enough, you already know what all those codes stand for, because I have said it several times when reading the indictment. So it says Mr. Kelly has pleaded not guilty to all of the charges. This is just a summary of the charges to give you some background on the case. The court will instruct the jury as to the elements of the crimes charged and the applicable law at a more appropriate time during trial. So unless you are actually selected for jury duty, that's when they will reveal that information. And then it says confidential juror questionnaire, juror number. And so each person will be given a number that's assigned to them, and that's the number they'll put on this juror form. So they ask for standard background information, age, whether they're male, female, or confused. Not confused, but, other things. Where do you currently live? County, neighborhood. How long have you lived there? Where did you live before that? How long did you live there? Where were you born? Where were you raised? Where else have you lived? Please include neighborhoods and or foreign countries. Do you own or rent your home? And are you currently, oops, wait a second. Are you currently, and please check all that apply, and then it's employed full-time, part-time, whether you have more than one job, are you self-employed, a homemaker, retired, a student, unemployed, looking for work, unemployed, not looking for work, or if you are disabled. If you are currently a student, what is your area of study? If you are employed, describe your current occupation and job duties. And then going back up to that question where they were talking about whether you were male or female, it doesn't ask if the person is gay or anything. Basically, if you don't identify as either male or female. And then that reminded me that I was asked to sit on a mock trial. So there are legal teams, lawyers, and sometimes I think prosecutions do this too. And you actually get paid. Well, you get paid for jury duty. I know here jury duty is like $15 a day. Like, come on, for real, y'all. But not an hour, a day. $15 a day to serve on jury duty. But sometimes law firms, and I believe the prosecution does it also, where they have mock trials. And basically a mock trial is, say you have a case that's really difficult, that you think is going to be really difficult to win. And so they will put on a mock trial and they pay people to come in, and you can make a few $100s on these. And you come in and you basically, they put on a mock trial, and you don't know what the real case is that they're handling, but they, just to see what the mock jury would come back and say, whether they would think that the person is innocent or guilty. And then they'll bring in certain people. So the reason I was brought in on this mock trial is because I have a child with a disability. And then so what they're trying to see is whatever this case was about, and it had something to do with somebody with a child with a disability. And I think they were actually, it was a lawsuit where somebody was suing a company. And so they were trying to figure out if they had people on the jury that had children with disabilities, how would those people lean either way in answering that case? And so that was a really good experience. And plus it paid good money to do it. Then it goes on to say, do not list name or location of employment. If you are currently retired or otherwise without a job, please write that and then complete information below for your last job. And so then they have where they can fill in this information. And that question was, if you are employed, describe your current occupation and job duties. And the reason they do that is, say a person is a musician, a traveling musician, they may not want, the defense would want the traveling musician to sit on the jury, but the prosecution would not want that person to sit. And these are the kind of things that they do to weed people out that they think would vote for or against them in the verdict. Then question number 14, what other types of jobs have you held throughout your life? 15, in your work, have you ever managed, directed, or supervised others? Yes or no? If yes, how many people have you managed, directed, or supervised? If yes, how long have you been in a supervisor position? And then that question, I'm thinking they feel is important because they're stating that Robert Kelly, directed these people to do these crimes that they are alleging. And then 16, how far did you go in school? List any degrees or certificates. And I think these questions right here will probably be on most juror questionnaires, regardless of what the case is about. 17, if you attended college or grad school, what did you study? 18, other than English, what language do you speak? 19, would others describe you as open-minded and willing to listen to and assess different viewpoints? I think I would answer that yes, that people would see me that way. But then they would also say, like I would be that juror that's sitting in there. Like if I believe, after listening to the evidence, if I believe this person was innocent or guilty and the rest of the room thought the opposite, I would be that person that would hang a jury, because once I've listened to all the information, all the facts and everything, and I believe in my heart of hearts that this person is either innocent or guilty, there's really nothing anybody else in the room could say to sway my opinion. And what happens in a lot of cases is like when the jury is hung and the judge keeps saying, go back, go back, go back, go back and work it out. And you have people in jury deliberations for 2-3 weeks. I'm like, I would be that person that everybody would be mad at because I wouldn't change my opinion. And so a lot of times people will just change their mind because they're ready to go home. They're over the process. They're exhausted. But I wouldn't be that person. We would just be sitting in there and I'd just be like, okay, let me know. Either y'all gonna go out there and tell the judge a hung jury, or all of y'all gonna change y'all mind, because I'm not changing my mind. That's the kind of juror I would be. And so if anybody watching this, just don't you call me, take my name out the jury pool, okay? So then number 20, have you ever served in any branch of the armed forces of the United States, including the military reserves, National Guard, ROTC? Yes, no. If yes, state the branch. Summarize any special training you received. 21, have you or any close family members ever been self-employed or owned your own business? Yes, you, yes, family, no, without listing names of any people or businesses, describe the kind of business, what person owned it and for how long. And I'm thinking that probably goes back to the whole music industry. They're trying to weed out people who have affiliations to the music industry. 22, in your personal life, what special skills and or interests do you have, including foreign travel or membership in any clubs, groups, or organizations, including civic, social, union, professional, fraternal, recreational, volunteer, or religious? 23, are you presently a member of any church, synagogue, mosque, temple, or do you participate in any other religious organizations? Yes or no. Do your religious beliefs affect your ability to sit in judgment of others? Yes or no? 24, what is your current relationship status? Okay, well, what that got to do with it? 25, please describe your spouse, partner, significant other's occupation, job duties, and highest level of education. Please do not list his or her place of employment. 26, do you have any children? Yes or no? If yes, please list the following for each. Please include children you are currently raising or have ever raised, even if they are not your biological children. And then they have a graph here for gender, age, child living with you, yes or no, highest level of education, type of occupation, level in school. Do not list names of employers or schools. Okay, then I'm going to go back up here to the top because I think one of the objections applied to many of those questions that I just read to you guys. Okay. Maybe not. I thought it said. Okay, I'll just wait until I get to the end to read the. Oh, here it is. Proposed question with respect to questions numbers 13, 21, 25, and 26. The defendant seeks to inquire as to the name of the prospective juror's employer, i.e., the company at which they are employed. I don't know why they would need that information, but the government's objection is the government objects to inclusion of any question in which the prospective jurors are asked to list the names or addresses of his or her employers, or if self-employed, the name of his or her business. Moreover, the government objects to inclusion of any questions seeking information about the employers or businesses of the prospective jurors' family members. The government intends to file a motion seeking an anonymous and partially sequestered jury. Accordingly, for the reasons the government will outline more fully in this motion, the government believes that the prospective jurors should not be required to provide their place of employment. We respectfully request that the court defer decision on this issue until after the parties have had an opportunity to brief the forthcoming motion for an anonymous and partially sequestered jury. Okay, so let's go back down here. Where was I? Okay. So let's pick back up question 27. So now it's a different section, and it says knowledge of the case and people. The media has reported a number of things about this case. We are interested in what you may recall, if anything. 27. The case for which you are summoned involves the defendant, Robert Sylvester Kelly, also known as R. Kelly. Have you read, seen, or heard anything about the case, the alleged crimes, or people involved? Yes or no? Sounds familiar, but I'm unsure. 28. If yes, please describe in detail what you recall reading, seeing, or hearing about the defendant, the alleged crimes, the court proceedings, or the people involved, regardless of whether you believe the information is accurate or not. If you need additional space, please use the additional comment page at the end of this document. 29. Have you read, seen, or heard about Robert Kelly, also known as R. Kelly? Yes, no, unsure. 30. If yes, please describe in detail what you recall reading, seeing, or hearing about Robert Kelly, also known as R. Kelly, and your views or feelings about the information. 31, have you ever talked about or overheard discussions about any aspects of the case among friends, family, or coworkers? Yes, no, unsure. If yes, please describe what you or they talked about. 32, have you ever read or posted opinions online related to this case or the people involved? Yes, no. If yes, please describe. Well, guys, they done kicked me off the jury already. I won't make it on the Robert Kelly jury. 33, have you ever posted opinions online about any court proceeding? Yes, no. If yes, describe. That will exclude me as well. 34, this case involves allegations related to an individual who is known publicly as a result of his profession in the music and entertainment business. Do you have any views or feelings about serving as a jury in a case, as a juror in a case where the defendant that has been accused of criminal conduct can be described as a celebrity or public figure? Yes, no. If yes, please share your views and opinions. 35, the defendant is charged with leading an enterprise which is alleged to have engaged in conduct including bribery, kidnapping, abuse, exploitation of certain individuals, transportation of certain individuals, and other individuals for the purpose of engaging in illegal activity, production of videos, and forced labor. These are only charges. Mr. Kelly is presumed innocent of these charges, and it is the government's burden to prove him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Is there anything about the nature of these charges in and of themselves that would interfere with your ability to fairly decide this case impartially in accordance with the instructions of the court? Yes, no. If yes, explain here. 36, do you have any specific views or feelings concerning laws regarding the age at which individuals under the age of 18 can or cannot consent to certain activity with other individuals? Yes, no. If yes, what are your views or opinions, and would they affect your ability to serve as a fair and impartial juror? 37, the charges in this case involve allegations regarding exposure to one or more STDs. Is there anything about such an allegation without more that you believe? That doesn't make any sense. Is there anything about such an allegation without more that you believe would affect your ability to serve as a fair and impartial jury? I didn't really understand that without more part. The next section, which says experiences with and opinions about the criminal justice system. 38, have you or a friend or family member ever been employed, trained, applied for work, or volunteered in any law enforcement agency, corrections, or a related field? Examples: police, sheriff, FBI, jail, probation officer, private security, etc. Yes, self. Yes, friend or family member. No. If yes, without listing names of the persons, please indicate your relationship with that person, where the job or nature of experience, and the approximate dates. I actually had an uncle. Who was over the police department at FAMU. And then I had a cousin who was a police officer in Pennsylvania who both of them are deceased now. I don't recall that question coming up when I was called in for jury duty before. So that's interesting that they included that here. 39, have you or a family or family member ever been employed by or volunteered in any aspect of criminal defense work, including any public defender's office, legal aid, or with a related support or advocacy group having to do with the rights of people charged with crimes? Yes, self. Yes, friend or family member. No. If yes, without listing names, please Indicate what person, where the job or nature experience, and the approximate dates. 40, have you or a friend or family member ever been employed by or volunteered in any aspect of the work of a prosecutor's office, including any related support or advocacy group? And then they ask the same yes, no, list the information without giving names. 41, have you or friend or family member ever been accused of, charged with, or convicted of any crime, or been the subject of a criminal investigation? Yes, self. Yes, friend or family member. No. And then I've already told you guys about my kid's father. Actually, I know a bunch of damn people that's in jail. I'm just going to call it what it is. In jail for a whole bunch of different stuff. Just have no act right within them. 42, have you or a friend or family member ever been accused of sexual harassment? Yes, self. Yes, family or family friend. No. And then they ask you to give information, dates, etc., and the outcome of that case. 43, have you or a friend or family member ever been the victim of sexual harassment, sexual abuse, or sexual assault? Yes, self. Yes, family or friend. No, if yes, without listing names. And then I would answer yes, friend or family member on that question. 44, have you been a victim of any other violent crime, or do you know anyone who has been a victim of a violent crime? Yes, self. Yes, friend or family member. No. If yes, without listing names, please explain who the victim was, when and where the crime occurred, what happened, whether you or your friend, family member received medical treatment as a result of the crime, whether anyone was arrested or convicted, what the outcome of the case was, and what, if any, effect this experience has had on you. And then in this case, I would have to answer yes. I don't know too many people that wouldn't be able to answer yes, but I've had friends whose kids have been murdered. Just all sorts of crimes, drug involved crimes, all different kind of craziness going on. So I think if you live long enough, you know somebody, either yourself or somebody who's been impacted by crime. 45, have you, any members of your family or anyone close to you ever testified as a witness in court or in a deposition, or have you ever been subpoenaed to testify? I have never been subpoenaed to testify. I don't think I've ever been subpoenaed to testify. And then they ask you to give information. 46, would that experience affect your ability to be fair and impartial in this case? I think I am a fair and impartial person, just in general. 47, have you ever been involved, or do you expect to become involved in any legal action or dispute with a government agency, or have you had any financial interest in such a dispute? No, that would be no. If you answered yes to question 47, is there anything about the experience that will affect your ability to be a fair and impartial jury in this case? And then if you selected yes, they want you to explain. 49, have you or has anyone you know ever been involved in providing the government with information in a criminal investigation? Yes, no, if yes, without listing names. That would be yes. What happened there? Let me go back up here. Let's see. Let's see. 50, have you or a close friend or family member ever been in prison? I have not, but I know a whole bunch of people that have. 51, have you ever taken any courses or worked in the fields of sexual abuse counseling, law, criminal justice, criminology, or other related areas. I did take a criminal forensics class once. 52, have you ever known anyone, including yourself, who was the victim of an assault, other assault, homicide, or other act of violence that required medical treatment or counseling? I think they already asked that question, and it was yes. 53, do you, anyone in your household or a close friend, own any guns? No one in my household owns a gun, but I do know some gun-owning people. And then if yes, please state your relationship to that person. Please do not list names, blah, blah, blah. What was that? It says, please do not list any names, but rather respond, for example, wife, friend, how many and what type of firearm. Alrighty then. I actually used to date a guy who, he used to carry a gun. It was so funny. So I knew he carried a gun, and that really bothered me. And I went to his apartment, and he opened the closet door, and he had like all kind of guns in there, like assault rifles. And so that kind of like changed my opinion about moving forward with that relationship. But I think most guys I've dated have owned guns. And then, of course, my ex, of course, he owned guns because he was criminal. But, yeah, the gun thing, I don't understand why it's on this questionnaire, because I don't think R. Kelly has been charged with owning a gun, has he, or pulling a gun on anybody. So that's interesting. 54, do you have any friends or family members who have ever been lawyers, judges, law clerks, or otherwise involved in the legal field? I know several lawyers, and I have lawyers in my family. So that would be yes. And then they want you to explain who those people are. 55, have you, a family member or close friend, ever practiced law in the area of criminal defense? Several people that I know who are lawyers are criminal defense lawyers. 56, do you have any opinions about lawyers that would affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror? And that would be no. Except Steve Greenberg is about to make me change that, because I think Steve might end up surprising us, but so far he has not impressed me in the least. So he's about to make me change my opinion about lawyers. 57, have you, a family member or a close friend, ever filed a complaint with the police or any law enforcement agency against anyone? Please describe the circumstances surrounding the complaint. I don't think I've ever filed a complaint against anyone, but I do be calling the police on the damn kids drag racing through our neighborhood in the middle of the night, putting everybody's life in danger. But I've never filed a complaint against somebody. 58, have you or anyone close to you ever had a positive or negative experience involving the police or any law enforcement agency? And I think for most people that answer probably yes. I don't know. Yeah, I think most people would say yes to that question, because police just out of control. 59, do you read any books, blogs, social media sites, or other websites about celebrities or crimes, including abuse or assault, or watch or listen to any television programs, movies, podcasts, or documentaries about celebrities or crimes, including abuse, assault, and criminal justice system? Yes, 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 and yes. 60, have you ever served as a juror before? You guys know I already said yes. It says, if yes, please list the number of civil cases or criminal cases. Have you served in state court jury, federal court jury, and or on a grand jury without listing the names of any parties? In what type of cases have you served as a juror? B, were you ever the foreperson? Yes or no? How many times? C, did you ever reach a verdict? Yes or no? If no, what happened? 61. The defendant in a criminal case is presumed innocent at all stages of the trial and is not required to present any defense. The government is required to prove the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt on each charge, regardless of what the law says. If chosen to sit on this jury, do you have any issues or thoughts regarding those legal standards? Yes, no. If yes, explain. 62, the defendant in a criminal case has an absolute right not to testify. Regardless of that right and what the law says, what impressions or opinions do you have of a defendant if he or she does not testify at trial? 63, do you believe that police or law enforcement officers are more likely to tell the truth than other witnesses? Hell to the no, no, no. They are liars. They are born liars. They are trained to lie. Okay. 64. Do you believe that police or law enforcement officers are more likely to lie than other witnesses? Yes, yes, hell yes. Yes. 65. Regardless of your own opinions, you will be instructed by the judge that members of law enforcement who testify at trial are not in and of themselves to be considered more or less truthful than witnesses who testify at trial who are not members of law enforcement. Regardless of your own opinions on that subject, will you be able to follow that instruction? Yes, no, no, please explain. 66, if selected to serve as a juror, you will be instructed that Mr. Kelly and his counsel do not have an obligation to present any evidence at all at trial, including after the government rests its case. Do you accept this principle, and will you be able to apply it if selected to serve on this jury? Yes, no, no, please explain. 67, one or more government witnesses may testify that they participated in crimes. The witness may have, oh, I thought this was good. And this was one of the cases that Greenberg wanted to alter the question, and they're objecting to it. And I'll read that in a little bit because it was just a couple of words. But anyway, it says one or more government witnesses may testify that they participated in crimes. The witness may have a criminal history and may be testifying pursuant to an agreement with the government immunizing him or her from prosecution. Use of such witnesses is lawful. Do you have feelings about a witness who was granted immunity from prosecution that would make it difficult for you fairly and impartially to consider that testimony or render a guilty verdict based on the testimony of such witness? Yes, no. If yes, please explain. And y'all already know what my answer is to that. Especially in a case where you're claiming racketeering, a whole RICO case, but you only got one defendant. I would have a huge problem with any of these thieving, lying, conniving people to be coming up there testifying and their butts haven't been charged. And I keep telling people all the time, it is one thing to file a RICO case and arrest 100 people, and then 99 of those people say, okay, well, I'll give you the information you want if you drop the charges against me, and then you end up with the ringleader, versus never charging any of the 99 people, just letting them come in and make up stories, tell lies, or whatever tales they got to tell, and then you go and arrest the ringleader based on what these people had to say. So there's two totally different situations there, and I would have a problem with that. And I hope that Greenberg is able to say to the jury, none of these people were ever arrested. None of these people were ever charged with a crime, that the federal government brought these people in, threatened them with being charged with a crime in order to coerce them to get this information. I hope that's what Greenberg is able to say to the jury. So 68, It is the law that the testimony of a single witness, or is that the one I already read? Do you have a? No, this is a different one. It is the law that the testimony of a single witness, including a witness who has received immunity from prosecution, can be sufficient to convict a defendant of a charged crime. If the jury finds that the testimony of the witness established proof beyond reasonable doubt, do you have any opinion or belief about the law or witnesses who have received immunity that would prevent you from applying the rule of law? And the answer is yes. 69. The law provides that the government can, once it demonstrates probable cause to believe that a crime has been or will be committed, obtain authorization from a court to search premises or electronic media to obtain evidence, including but not limited to email, text messages, video recordings, letters, financial information, and other materials or information. Do you have any particular feelings about this law that would affect your ability to evaluate the evidence fairly and impartially? Yes, no. If yes, please explain. And I think my answer would be no, I wouldn't have a problem with that. Okay, 70. Under the law, the facts are for the jury to determine, and the law is for the judge to determine. You are required to accept the law as the judge explains it to you, even if you do not like the law or disagree with it, and you must determine the facts according to those instructions. Would you have any difficulty following the judge's instructions? I think it would depend on what the law is for me. 71. Under the law, the question of punishment, if any, should not enter your deliberations. Would you have any difficulty following this rule, yes or no? I don't know about that one either, because if you're trying to get somebody life in prison for something that I think only deserve about 2 years in jail, I may have a hard time. Well, I know the answer is yes, because I don't believe in the death penalty. And so I would never be able to sit on a jury that involves the death penalty. So yeah. 72. Under the law, emotions such as sympathy, bias, and prejudice must not enter into the deliberations of the jurors as to whether the guilt of the defendant has been proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Would you have any difficulty following this rule? And I don't think I would have a problem following that rule. 73. Do you have any views about people of other races or ethnicities that would affect your ability to be fair and impartial juror? And that answer is no. 74, and this is a new section called Media and the Internet. What publicly known person do you most admire and why? That's a good question. What publicly known person do I most admire and why? I don't know. I would have to think about that one, y'all. 75. What publicly known person do you least admire and why? That would be Donald Trump, because he's an idiot. 76. How often do you make it a point to follow the news? Every day, almost every day, several times a week, several times a month, never. I read a lot of news, so I would say every day. 77. Which sources do you regularly rely on for news? Please check the box corresponding to your regular news sources. Television, newspaper, radio, internet, social media, YouTube, podcasts, magazines, personal conversations, other. I do watch television news. I watch our local news, and then sometimes I watch CNN when they're not being assholes. I do read several newspapers every day, and I read those online. I rarely ever listen to the radio unless I'm in the car. Social media, I don't look to social media for news. However, if somebody on my timeline shares a story, a link to a story, I'll click on that. I rarely ever look to YouTube for news, not serious news, unless it's something that I'm really, 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 really interested in. And then after reading the newspaper, I might research YouTube for more information. I don't really listen to podcasts. I don't buy magazines. I have a lot of personal conversations with people, other sources. 78, please list the names of your regular news sources: Wall Street Journal, New York Times, New York Post, CNN, Fox News, Univision, etc. Like I said, I watch CNN. I read our local newspapers. I read the New York Times. I read the LA Times. I read a lot of the Chicago newspapers since I started following this R. Kelly case. And several other more specified newspapers like Bloomberg Report and things like that. 79, what books, if any, have you recently read? I read a lot of books, too many to name. The last book I read was The Darkest Child by Dolores Phillips. 80, what magazines, if any, do you regularly read? I do not read magazines. What is your favorite book and why? Oh my God. I'm an author, so I read a lot of books, so I can't say my favorite book at this moment. 82, what are your favorite television shows? I like home improvement shows. Those would probably be my favorites. And then I like Queen Sugar, Greenleaf. A lot of the shows that come on OWN, I do like those. 83, who are your favorite music artists, groups? R. Kelly, of course. Prince was my favorite of all times. And then there are other, India Arie. I bought her latest CD, even though she was getting on my nerves talking about R. Kelly. 84, I love Stevie Wonder. Okay, 84, what are your favorite internet sites, blogs, podcasts, or social media sites? Too many to name. Twitter, Facebook, blogs. I don't think I follow too many blogs, like religiously, but I do read a lot of blogs when I'm on the internet, but it's not like I have specific ones that I say, oh, I gotta go to, I gotta read those. I'm telling y'all a whole bunch about myself. I hope y'all would share the same in the comments about yourself. 85, how often do you tweet, blog, vlog, podcast, or post comments on the internet? Daily. 86, do you have your own online blog, vlog, YouTube channel, or podcast, or do you contribute to any blog? All of the above. That's how I make my living. I write blogs for small businesses. And then, of course, I have a YouTube channel because you guys are watching it right now. And I have a blog on my own website that I don't get to pay attention to because I'm busy writing blogs for other people. It says, if yes, it says, without listing names or identifying the blog, please explain the nature of the blog. And then the next section is jury service questions. 87, if you are selected as a juror in this case, the judge will instruct you to avoid all media coverage and not to go on the internet with regard to this case for any purpose. That is, you would be forbidden from reading newspaper articles or watching news reports about this case, Googling the case, blogging, vlogging, tweeting, podcasting, or otherwise posting, commenting on social media sites, etc. Do you have any reservations or concerns about your ability or willingness to follow this instruction? I think I could, because every year for Lent, I log off of social media. I didn't do a good job this year. This year was the first year I haven't like been religious about it, and it was more so because the coronavirus and everything was going on. But typically the 40 days of Lent, I do log off of social media. I everything, like all of my social media sites and everything. 88, is there anything about the nature of the charges or the facts of the case as they have been explained to you thus far that would affect your ability to serve as a juror in this case? If yes, please explain. But y'all already know my answer because I know way too much about this case to be on anybody's jury. 89, if you were selected to serve on this jury, would you consider and respect the views of other jurors, even if their views differ from yours, in accordance with the court's instruction before making your decision? I can respect other people's opinions. 90, is there anything that you would like to discuss privately with the judge and attorneys? Yes, but it doesn't really pertain to being a juror. 95, please review the list of names and organizations on the following pages and then answer this final question. Are you familiar with any of the individuals or organizations named on the list? Yes, no, unsure. If yes or unsure, indicate who you know or may know, or how you are or may be familiar with them. Names and organizations, please review the following names, blah, blah, blah. And then they're going to insert attorney, judge, witness, groups and organizations, locations listed here. And of course, they don't have that in the draft of the questionnaire. Scheduling and ability to serve. This proceeding is expected to begin on July 7, 2020, and we already know that that's been postponed to October and last approximately 4 weeks. Court sessions will last from approximately a.m. until p.m. They don't have the times. Monday through Friday, there are regular breaks approximately every 90 minutes and a 1-hour break for lunch. 92, do you have any difficulty reading, understanding, or speaking English? Yes, no, explain. 93, do you wish to apply to the court to be excused on the grounds that jury service in this case would be a serious hardship? Yes, no. If yes, please describe your circumstances. 94, do you have any personal, family, or professional obligation that you feel would seriously interfere with your ability to focus and concentrate as a juror in this case? Yes, no, unsure. If yes, please explain. 95, does your employer pay you for time missed as a result of jury service? Yes, no, unsure. If you are unsure, please find out before you return to court for jury selection question. I don't know why that tickled me. 96, do you have any condition, disability, or need that will require any special consideration or accommodation while you are in court? Yes, no. If yes, please explain. And then all of these are yes, no questions. 97, do you have hearing difficulties not corrected by a hearing aid? 98, do you have trouble seeing even with glasses? Yes, yes, yes. No. 99, are you taking any medication regularly? No. Do any of these medications affect your memory or concentration? No. 101, is there anything else not covered by this questionnaire that you believe is relevant, that I click on, is relevant to your ability to be fair and impartial that you would like the attorneys and court to know? Yes, no. If yes, please explain. And then they have an additional comment page. If the space that they gave the people wasn't enough for them to answer the question, then they had these extra pages. And then let's go back and talk about what was objected to. So I already told you guys that number 67, they objected to. And basically, it was one or more government witnesses may testify that they participated in crimes. The witnesses may have a criminal history and may be testifying pursuant to an agreement with the government, immunizing him or her from prosecution. Use of such witnesses is lawful. Do you have feelings about a witness who was granted immunity from prosecution? And then the defense wants to add or offered or promised anything. And then it picks up with the rest of the question. That would make it difficult for you to fairly and impartially to consider that testimony to render a guilty or verdict based on the testimony of such witnesses. And so the government objected. And so the reason they objected is because they say the government objects to the defendant's proposed additional language as overly broad, vague, likely to cause confusion, and unfairly prejudicial. The broadness of the defendant's proposed language requires the prospective jurors to of an unspecified and likely irrelevant list of potential items that may hypothetically be offered to a witness. Either you bribed the people or you didn't. So then the next question that they objected to was question number 68. It says the defendant objects to the question and proposes the following alternative language. It is the law that the testimony of a single witness can be sufficient to convict a defendant of a charged crime. If the jury finds that the testimony of that witness established proof beyond a reasonable doubt. Do you have any opinion or belief that would prevent you from applying this rule of law? Yes or no? Explain. Then they objected to that change, and it says that the government objects to the defendant's proposed language to the extent that it is intended as an alternative to question number 68 and requests that question number 68 be provided as currently drafted. The intended purpose of question number 68 is to inquire whether the prospective jury would have any difficulty following the court's instructions regarding witness testimony and the burden of proof for the sole reason that the witness was granted immunity by the government. The defendant's proposed language removes any reference to an immunized witness, rendering it ineffective in its purpose to ascertain the individual's views or prejudice against a witness that has obtained immunity. While a jury is entitled to consider a grant of immunity when determining whether to credit a witness' testimony, it is relevant and proper to inquire as to whether the individual has an unreasonable bias against such a witness that would otherwise make the individual unable to follow the court's instructions. Notably, the government initially proposed question number 67 and 68 as a single question consisting of two subparts, A and B. At the defendant's request, the government separated the subparts into two individual questions, but believes they may rarely be combined as a multi-part question. I'll go back and read that question. That was 68. Question number 69. The defendant objects to the question in its entirety on relevance grounds and propose that it be deleted. The government's objection. It is the government's position that given that the investigation in this matter involved the execution of one or more judicially authorized warrants. Go back up here. Keep losing my space. Okay. Warrants will be presented at trial. Evidence obtained as a result of the warrants will be presented at trial. Prospective jurors' beliefs regarding such investigatory tactics by law enforcement are relevant, and the question is therefore proper and warranted. The defendant further proposes that the following questions be added to the questionnaire to which the government objects for the reasons stated. Proposed question: have you, a family member, a close friend, or a spouse or partner ever had a sexually transmitted disease? Yes, no. If yes, please explain. Government objection. The government objects to this question in its entirety as overly broad and unduly invasive, requiring prospective jurors to disclose protective medical information about themselves and others close to them is unnecessarily intrusive. To the extent the prospective jurors' views on sexually transmitted diseases ascertained through the less intrusive question proposed by the government, which, as proposed, inquires whether the fact that the case involves allegations regarding exposure to one or more sexually transmitted diseases will affect the individual's ability to be fair and impartial, and if so, seeks an explanation. See question 37. Proposed question: if you were to be selected to serve on this jury and you find that the government has not proven the allegations against Mr. Kelly beyond a reasonable doubt on any or all of the charges, will you be able to render a verdict in favor of Mr. Kelly? Yes, no. If no, please explain. Government's objection. The government objects to this question as overly broad, vague, confusing, and duplicative or of questions already posed in the questionnaire. The questionnaire has multiple questions which inquire about the individual's ability to follow the court's instructions, particularly as the burden of proof. See questions numbers 35, 61, 66, 70, and 72. Moreover, the jurors will be instructed by the court as to the manner by which they are to render a verdict. In addition, as phrased, the question misstates the law and suggests that a juror would need to render a general acquittal in favor of the defendant if the government failed to meet its burden on any charges. And I don't know if I agree with that. Let's see. And then I already read that one. So those were their objections. The one about if you were to be selected to serve on this jury and you find that the government has not proven the allegations against Mr. Kelly beyond a reasonable doubt on any or all of the charges. Okay, I don't see a problem with that question, because basically what they're asking is, if you got some preconceived notions about R. Kelly, would you still be able to find him innocent if the government has not proved the case? So I don't see a problem with that question being added. And I didn't have a problem with the STD question either, because what I think it would show is if all 500 people say that they've never had an STD before, then we know it's some lying people out there, because the statistics on herpes infections is, I told it to you guys in a previous video, is it like 3 in 5 people or something like that, or 60% of people between 20 and 49 or something like that have been affected. And don't quote me on that because I'm just thinking out loud, but it is like a really large number of people have herpes. So I think that is a good question, because it kind of like lets you know how honest your jury is. And yeah, so that's it, guys. What do you think about these questions? A lot of them are standard questions that would be asked in any case, and then others, are specific to celebrities, namely R. Kelly. Do you think you would be able to serve on this jury? Do you think that they are going to have a hard time seating a jury? Let me know what you think about the questionnaire and how you think this jury selection is going to go. Will they be able to find the 12 juries and 3 alternates, I think it is, within the first pool, the first 500 people that they send this questionnaire out to? Or do you think it's going to take them a while to seat a jury? What do you think about the jury being possibly sequestered or partially sequestered? How would you feel about sitting on a jury where people are sequestered? I think I would lose my freaking mind if I had to be stuck in a hotel with a bunch of people on the jury that may not agree. You know, that might feel differently than I feel, or people that I have nothing in common with. Like, I don't think I would want to be, especially if the jury lasts, you know, if the case lasts like a month. Like, they're saying that this case is going to last up to 4 weeks. There is no way I would want to be stuck in a hotel for a month. No way. And then they say partially sequestered. So I don't know if that means that Monday through Friday they're going to be sequestered and then they get to go home on the weekends. Not sure how they're going to work that out as part of, you know, partially sequestered. Or do they let the people go home but tell them that they can't, you know, watch the news, watch the internet, they can't leave the house, go out, or anything like that. Let me know what you think about that. And any other questions that you guys may have, go ahead, leave your comments below, rate the video, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. And until the next time, I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.